as I drove home after that first Mass, I got very angry. I thought, I cannot believe that this has been kept from me my whole life.
So that's how I got started. But Jay, I want to hear your story too. How did you get started with all the good music and such?
So mercifully, I grew up at a parish that had a good music program. There was no silly business. You know, we were a parish of one of the 3-letter companies, but there was never like liturgical abuse or anything like that. You know, but I always kind of had a hunger for more. I loved the organ from the time I was a little kid and whatever else. So then I eventually decided that I wanted to get a degree in organ. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'll get a degree and I'll become an organist. But I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know what you do to lead a music program or whatever. I just thought maybe I'll play for a church somewhere and just do the organ thing, and then whatever else happens, I guess. I don't know. And then I went to grad school at OU, and while I was there, I started playing for the National Shrine of the Infant Jesus of Prague in Prague, Oklahoma. It sounds way more impressive than it really was. But in any case, but when I was there, this is what like totally changed the trajectory of my life. And Father Oswald, if you're listening, absolute mad shout out to you, because you truly changed everything for me. So I had this wonderful priest. He was wonderful, and he was an Anglican convert, and so he had a true, lifelong love for beautiful liturgy. And he pulled me aside one day and said, hey, I'd like for you to start chanting the antiphons. Do you know what the antiphons are? I had no idea. I'd never heard of them. In my entire life, up until, my mid-20s, I had never once heard an antiphon, And I used to serve at the cathedral. I served for 4 different bishops at, the cathedral. And but I'd never, to my knowledge, heard an antiphon. I'd never been to a Latin Mass or anything like that. So he says, well, you start chanting the antiphons. And so we started out with these simple English propers, as one does. And, we just added it to what was there. So I was, while the bells were tolling, I'd chant the introit, and then we'd start the entrance hymn, and then I would just add the communion antiphon before the communion hymn. Low-hanging fruit stuff from my perspective. And, he was doing everything wonderfully. We had a communion rail that he found that was retrofitted to the church. He instituted its use, beautiful vestments. We would do whole liturgical seasons ad orientem. I mean, it was amazing. And I loved it. And then he was reassigned. And unfortunately, the priest who followed him did not have good liturgical formation. In fact, I would say he had quite the opposite. And so within 2 weeks, things started to fall apart. The altar was stripped of the candles. We couldn't use the communion rail anymore. Within a month or 2, I wasn't allowed to even add the simple English propers. It was again, like banned. I was not allowed to chant the one while the bells were ringing, and I couldn't just simply add the other one during communion, even though there was more than ample time for all of that, right? And the whole thing just fell apart. There was actual, literal liturgical abuse. We don't need to get into all of that. But anyways, long story short, at one point I reached my breaking point, and I decided to resign. And during my attempt to very cordially resign and offer to play through Christmas, I was told not to come back. And when I say liturgical abuse, I mean things were happening like where instead of holding the presider's chalice, he would hold up the 2 extraordinary ministers' cups and say, "This is the cup of my blood, the blood of the new and everlasting covenant," while holding up, and while the chalice is sitting there. You're like, what? What? Anyways, so I had really, really reached a nadir, a low point in my liturgical life, because I wasn't even able to receive communion all the time because the abuse was happening, and I was so upset by what I was seeing happening that I knew I couldn't receive our Lord in that state. So when I tried to resign and then was told not to come back, I ended up detoxing at a Latin Mass chapel for a couple of months. And so the nearest one was an hour away, and I went, and it was just a Saturday low Mass, and I was just, what is happening? For starters, I could understand the broad strokes of how everything went, but I had never seen
There was
anything like
something
this.
more you didn't quite have.
There's like
Yeah.
5-year-old servers that are moving around with like militant precision. You know, there's an hour-long line into the confessional. There's like the beautiful, you know, just chanted antiphons, and everyone's reverent, and we're using the communion rail, and like, this blew my mind. And then I drove home, and I was really intrigued to hear you say that you got angry, because as I drove home after that first Mass, I got very angry. I thought, I cannot believe that this has been kept from me my whole life. So then, eventually, after my kind of period of detoxing on the old rite, I ended up getting another job, but it was at a beautiful traditional parish with, you know, another really wonderful priest, and he wore his cassock, and very reverent masses, and a wonderful community. And it's St. Mary's in Guthrie. I just love them to bits. I still grieve this parish a decade later because they were wonderful. And but again, he was encouraging me to do the beautiful things and to chant the antiphons. And he literally said to me at one point, like, if it's good, true, and beautiful, we'll do it.
Nice.
You know, because that, like, we don't want Mass to be banal or ugly or whatever. And fast forward a little bit, I ended up getting hired after we moved to Indiana by another priest who's our age, who, go figure, we'll call him Father Young Trad. And I don't say that to denigrate him. It's very much to his credit.
Sure.
And he frequently celebrated the old rite, and he had studied in Rome. And so it was Father Royce who really tucked me under his wing and started teaching me in earnest. I think Father Oswald, he was the one who introduced me to Sacrosanctum Concilium.
Okay.
And I kind of glanced at the parts that seemed most pertinent to me, but it didn't all click at that point.
Right.
And then I started working for Father Royce, and he had the full knowledge of the old rite, and he was also extremely musically literate. So he used to sing in Cardinal Burke's Schola in Rome.
Oh, okay,
It was
wow.
fantastic. You know, high holy days, he would chant the entire gospel and all these things, and chant the entire Roman canon. We were tag teaming.
Kid in a candy shop,
Oh
right?
yeah, it was great. So, but again, he fully encouraged me. So we implemented, you know, Father Weber's propers at first, and then on High Holy Days we worked towards some fully Latin propers, and you know, we worked toward fully polyphonic ordinaries, and then we started hosting, you know, like every 6 months we would host a Latin Mass at our parish, where we would kind of do it up real big, and a couple other priests would come, and it would be like a proper solemn Mass, you know.
Yep.
And so all of these things, and so we basically got halfway to Unicorn Mass, you know, where we were singing the Creed and we were singing the Our Father in English, but to the traditional tone, you know, so it wasn't just Our Father who art in heaven, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Wow.
Turns out you can do the real thing in English.
Oh my gosh.
Who knew? And so anyways, it's just gone from there, and then I've started reading more and more of the documents and experiencing more of the church's authentic liturgical patrimony, and then you discover it is so beautiful.